Hey. And a hey to everybody. Hi, everybody. This is Dan. Yes, I'm back. Back again. This is Dan. I got friends with me. Yeah. It rhymes. Hey, it's good to be back. I've been kind of busy with this Zengate stuff. I don't even know, what the deal is with that. I hope I don't get into too much trouble with the boss. The boss is my wife, so it's anyway. I did get in trouble with the boss. There's too much travel, not enough chores done at the house. Terrible, but it's really good to be back doing the mainstream. Yeah, that's it. There's the mainstream. Nah, I'm just kidding. I know
I'm for your shot.
I know it's right up there, or here. Yeah, right there. Right. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so today we have a great episode, right? It's not like the rest of them aren't amazing, like literally going down to the annals of podcast history. However, today is especially cool. Well, not only because we have Theo with us. Say hi to everybody, Theo.
Hello, everyone.
And Theo does stuff at Zengate. He's the head of something or other. Head of operations. That's right. Head of operations at Zengate Global. And as opposed to Zengate Local. And we have with us today none other than Asela, who's the head of operations of Zengate Sri Lanka, Zengate SL. And as many of you know, Sri Lanka is our pilot jurisdiction. That's where it all started. And so Asela, well, he makes sense out of it for us. So great to have you on the show today, Asela.
Thank you, Dan. Happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're happy. And listen. So okay, let's start with a little bit of an intro, right? So, you and I, we met last year when we were expanding our operations in Sri Lanka, and so of course, our it's a practice that we didn't discover this, right? But it's just not prevalent enough in the blockchain space, in the Web3 space as much, because everything's just considered to be so distributed. Nobody actually has a physical office. Nobody does anything. Everybody works out of their house in their mom's basement, and everything is online, right? We don't meet in real life. It's all anons, right? We're all anons. That's not how we do business. That's not how you can do business in the commodities field. And so, or many other fields, or RWAs are really, you really need to have a base for RWAs, because RWAs are real world assets, right? In real world, you need to have real world presence. And so this is exactly why we didn't just say, oh, we're going to take on Ceylon tea, right? We went to Sri Lanka. We went to Sri Lanka in 22. We made the connections. We established a presence. And so this was actually the extension of that, the continuation of that was the establishment of Sri Lanka SL, Sri Lanka SL, Zengate SL, Zengate Sri Lanka. And of course, the establishment of our physical office in Colombo, which is where Asela works, which is basically our on-the-ground operation, which is crucial. It's crucial. And Asela, just first of all, will describe to us. Okay. So first of all, describe to us exactly what it is that you do, because when people kind of look at our platform, like I said, we have people from all walks of life. We have the Web3 community really kind of paying attention to to what we're doing on the tokenization side, on the token side, and all this stuff, right? And then of course you have the Web2 community that's just basically looking at the market access that we provide, all the different opportunities for bettering their business, right? So what but I think it's really important to gauge exactly how an operation like ours, an RWA operation, really works on the ground. You are on the ground. What do you do on the ground for Zengate SL? So just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, then. So yeah, so basically I manage like range of key deliverables, especially from stakeholder management. Like, when it comes to stakeholders, there are many parties involved at the moment, starting from producers to logistic partners, the government institutions. So basically I manage the operation, and I physically and, remotely meet them. And also, in addition to that, we're doing some market research, because we're currently, like you mentioned, tea is our prime product that we've selected at the moment. But beyond tea, that we need to explore some other commodities that we can get on board, like spices, cinnamon to pepper, and also maybe vanilla in future. So doing some market research on that, and also it's very important to build relationships, especially because this is a new thing for Sri Lankan community, or even for the producers, right? The Palmyra, the blockchain is somewhat new. So building trust with the stakeholders, meet them physically, and build those relationships is quite crucial. So that's mainly what I'm doing at the moment. And also the streamline the onboarding process, because we did several onboarding for the past couple of weeks. So I will basically discuss later in detail on those, but that's what I'm doing: streamline the onboarding process based on the feedback we received from the pioneers. Yeah, and to see how we can basically have an efficient and also working on the scalability, how we can basically expand the operation in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, that's great. And so, why don't you kind of explain to us? And this is again something that that many people asked us. Uh, and again, I never really want to make this this podcast about just shilling particularly Zengate or Palmyra. It's really more about actual realization of mainstream adoption of RWAs and blockchain technology in RWAs. Now, of course, since you are with the company and you have this really, like I said, an on the ground perspective, an on the ground understanding of what the market wants, what the producers want. I get this question quite a bit. So why do the producers care? Why do the buyers care about what Zengate has and what Palmyra offers, and what just essentially what RWA tokenization has for them? What does it do for them? So from your experience with dealing with people on the ground, like why Zengate, why Palmyra, why RWA tokenization, and any solution that utilizes that? Why do you think?
Yeah, so basically for producers, currently, if you take Sri Lankan tea market, basically the 70% of the productions come from small, micro, and medium scale producers. So that's quite a lot if you take it, right? And one major challenge for them is to find the market access, because obviously the bigger players, they have money and they can, market themselves. They can go to all the events around the world. But for these players, it's finding market is one major challenge. So that's why the blockchain-based solution would come as basically a solution. So they can list down their products on the platform, and obviously on the other side, we need to make sure that we have buyers, buyers on board. So obviously, then it's so they can transact on the platform. So listing their products, the different varieties of tea in Sri Lanka, so then would give them opportunity to reach out to the global market. I think that's one challenge that if I talk to everybody, like, that I've been working with for the past few months, would say that, I need to find buyers. I mean, it's very challenging, and the production cost is high. So then unless I find more markets, then obviously I can't sustain the business. So that's one thing from the producer's side. And from the buyer's side, if you take and what do they want, if you understand their requirement, it's about the quality of the product. How do we ensure the quality through blockchain platform, blockchain tools like traceability, right? And there are a lot of practices that even Sri Lankan producers take, like GAP, GMP. So those practices, how do we basically ensure that the buyer would know that these products are in good quality? So the verifiable credentials, the traceability are some key features that we have on our platform. Yeah.
So Dan, do you mind if I take it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm super excited having Asela on with us, because we did our very first meetup. I think, meet our team video, like way back in the days. And I'm very excited that we now have you on this live podcast with us. I think it's quite important for us because, since we entered the blockchain space, especially on the, more on the Cardano ecosystem, more specifically anyway, there's been this grand vision of, we gotta bank the unbanked, and something that Dan really doesn't really like this term, but hey, that's the term. And in a sense, go and do good, go and build solutions that will do good to others. It will better their lives, right? So here we are. We've been in Sri Lanka for the past couple of years, and you've been on the ground working with everyone, with all the producers, with the different stakeholders, on the tea industry more specifically, but obviously now we've been expanded to spices and whatnot. My question is, what are the traditional supply chain system like? Can you describe this for us, like the traditional supply chain system for the tea producers in Sri Lanka? What are the different stages? What are the key players involved, and how do you see that the solutions that we bring to them can actually have and make a difference?
Yeah, exactly. So like I mentioned, like if you take the tea industry, the 70% of the populations come from micro, small, and medium producers. And the tea is being sold at the auction. The Sri Lanka Tea Board, they regulate the process, they facilitate the auction. And according to research, I think there are around 600 exporters registered under Export Development Board. And there are like 400 active exporters. So basically, it's exporters' business, you can say. At the moment, the current supply chain would managed by them. Like I said, so the small players, so the only option right now is to sell their crop at the auction. But again, so there are a lot of middlemen involved. When it comes to supply chain, it's very complex. But the solution obviously is through the blockchain. So we basically give opportunity for these small players to find a market directly by listing their products on the platform, right? So obviously you can cut down the middleman, and obviously it will streamline the process, and then obviously they get a higher market, the value for their product. So that's the main thing. So and that will help them to obviously scale up their business. And obviously the Palmyra 2 version 2 would have the four features, but obviously now future versions, we will add more features for them, right? And the trading, the people will invest on that. So obviously then they will have more investors, and invest money on their business. So that's an additional opportunity. But for now, what we are focusing on is listing their products, help them to find global buyers, And then by integrating the logistics also to the platform would, give the buyers some good rates, because we are working with global courier and, logistic partners that will help both sides to, keep the logistic cost to a minimum.
That's actually amazing and very interesting. And there's this question that I've been having in my head, quite a few times, and it's always very, very interesting to get this view from the ground, right? Because we're sitting in our houses in the Western world, things are great, and we might be talking about things that we might have read on Google, or you know what I mean, or different websites anyway, or online, but we haven't really experienced what it is like, right? And this is where you have different people saying, "Oh, why do you need to do that? Crypto is only good for pumps and dumps and whatnot." But there's so much more into it, right? So I have I guess my question is like a two-part question. The first part is, you met Dan few months back, right? And he started talking to you about Zengate, about Palmyra, and the solutions that blockchain technology brings and whatnot. So my question is, what was your thought? Were you like, what is this guy talking about? Or you kind of got it. So that's my first part of the question. And the second one is, what is, the producer side of things? So how do they perceive it? Are they like, is this guy crazy? What is he talking about? Do they think that it's something okay? Do they open their arms and say, oh my God, welcome, and we've been looking for this for like what is the perception that we get from the local people on the in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, so I remember our conversation with Dan, and obviously I come from a different background. My experience lies with insurance and legal claims management. But what I found is it was quite interesting area, and then I started researching also. It's basically the on the job learning. So I joined in January, but so far I've been researching and doing so, and by talking to you guys, I learned a lot on that front. But when I approach the producers, obviously, even though they do not know much about the technology, the blockchain technology, the cryptocurrency, but they're quite open to explore the opportunities and keen to find solutions for their day-to-day problems. I think that's what give an for us an opportunity for them to reach out and explain and educate them what we can do at Zengate and how we resolve problems by using this technology. So all they want is solutions, right, for their day-to-day issues, day-to-day problems. But if we can provide the solutions, and I think that's what they want. So mainly.
And this is this is one of the biggest focuses that we've been talking about this for quite a while, right? If you really want the mass adoption to happen from the day-to-day people, you really want to make sure that their experience and it's there, and it's not complicated, it's super super simple, and they understand exactly the things that they need to do, and the solutions that they get out of this platform. So I think this is quite important. And I know we have Asela as our guest, but I also have a question for Dan, because Dan is the man behind everything, and he obviously has a lot more context around this. Dan, I just want to ask you, why Sri Lanka? I think it's quite important, question. Why did you, out of all the places around the world, why Sri Lanka? I think that's a good one to to answer.
Yeah, and this is always a great question. I mean, just basically just checked off all the boxes for us. We were looking for a market to deploy in that is underserved, that has a underserved commodities field, right? So it's a developing economy with an underserved commodities field of over $1 billion. That is, I guess, bandwidth is big enough, right, for it to expand. Demand is big enough for it to expand, and what that has what we call, and what actually this is the term that we got from our friends at World Mobile. We look for the Swiss cheese, and so that is basically what we mean by that is something where there's basically holes, right, in different types of access, and so these holes can be filled with the solutions that we provide. And so Sri Lanka was actually kind of a Swiss cheese, right? So you had, on one hand, you had this really big industry that's employs something like, what is it, over 1 million or 2 million people in Sri Lanka, and then the population of Sri Lanka is what, about 23, 24 million. So something like 5 to 10% of the entire population is employed by the tea industry. So it's just a place where we could make a difference. And like I said, it checked off all the boxes. And so once we actually get into the jurisdiction, it was also just the way that we were received, right? There was the MBOs, the SROs that we dealt with, the government. I mean, everybody was very receptive to what we're doing. They really got it. We didn't have to explain it a lot, because everybody understood that we can actually help solve a lot of the issues that the market is having. And like I said, it's mostly with access, right? So it's mostly with access, whether it's access to digitization, access to bigger of a world market, which partially is restricted through lack of digitization. Is it access to more streamlined payments? Is it access to more streamlined logistics? All these different things solved issues that were big problems in Sri Lanka, and especially for MSMEs, because MSMEs, they make up 70% of all commodity producers in the world, and especially in Sri Lanka. But a lot of them were underserved, even in the in the main tea industry in Sri Lanka, just because they're not big enough. That they can't scale enough to utilize some of the services that are even available to the bigger guys. And so that's basically why Sri Lanka, like I said, it checked off all these boxes for us, gave us a lot of opportunity to roll out all these different solutions that we have, gave us an opportunity to do business without, really kind of trying to gatekeep, trying to throw sticks into our wheels. And then the business has just been really thriving there, and especially since Asela joined, and we really have a presence on the ground, because that's also very important. Like I said, it's very important for an RWA project to have presence on the ground where they're doing business. And that's because you have to deal with the people on the ground, and that's how the business grows. That's it in a nutshell.
Awesome, Don. Thank you. Asela, I do have another question, because, we've been talking about traceability a lot, right? And maybe on the crypto blockchain techie side, people get it.
I think we might have lost Theo. It's
Yeah.
okay. I think, well, basically what Theo was talking about here is, right. So basically on the traceability side, right? Because we are one of the main, one of the main key features of the Web3 side is the traceability part, right? So can you explain to us, so right now, without traceability, right? So would have been, gaps in transparency, right? So lack of transparency, and a lack of, I guess, access in the value chain, what were they, and how does traceability and on-chain traceability, on-chain standards really help solve that? I mean, can you go into that, because you have experience working in the traditional market as well as what we're doing. So, what do you see being solved here with tools like traceability?
Yeah, obviously then. So gaps in the value chain, from producer to consumer, right, means there are a lot of opportunities that we can, provide to these producers, right, to overcome challenges. So ensuring quality, the authenticity, and ethical practices. So the current demand is based on these factors. Currently, the consumer, the demand is based on these components, the quality, right? So obviously, traceability comes as a result of solving that problem, like making sure that the quality is ensured. So establishing a robust traceability system allows for the recording and tracking of each commodity life cycle. I think people who know that what our product works like, that we can basically trace down the product toward the particular batch or to the particular estate, because we are mainly focusing on the pioneer producers or single estate producers. So we should be able to provide that traceability towards that particular batch of tea. The consumer would know, okay, I'm drinking tea comes from this estate and it was plucked on this date exactly. So that is something that we can provide on this day based on the technology. So it'll help to uphold standards, detect fraud, and also build consumer confidence. So yeah, those are the main benefits that we can get.
Yeah, and so I mean, just in your experience, how important is it? Because I think some people really don't have just a kind of a firm grasp on exactly why traceability is so important. So how important is it, say, to the buyers that you're dealing with?
So like I mentioned, so that currently, obviously, if you, for example, let's talk about the auction, right? If you use the auction and people buy different kinds of tea and different producers, but then they mix everything and together, and then they export. So obviously the consumer would not know exactly whether this is like the good quality tea, and we don't know whether it's been mixed, right? But with our solutions, so obviously we can give that assurance to the buyer that, for example, maybe I can use a name for, let's say, Cality, that one of our pioneers that we're working with, right? So they ensure that they have all the data. So they have to they get the data, and when it was plucked, and when it was basically exported, like made it ready. So then the buyer would know exactly, okay, the quality is guaranteed. And also, what something we are work in progress is that we have a universal grading system that we are working with. We are trying to integrate into our platform in near future. So that will also guarantee that the quality assurance. So then people would see, the buyer would see, okay, the grading, so it's 4.5 grading I'm buying. I want this product. I want to order place another 400 of this product, because you guarantee the quality through our platform. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, I mean, that's always what I thought, and really, I mean, we kind of, Sri Lanka was the place where we really tested out the thesis of how important it is, how important traceability is. And of course, somebody like you, like I said, who's somebody on the ground, has really good visibility into it. And so the other part, of course, that well, just the blockchain industry in general suffers from, and RWAs as well, because quite a few times, I sit in these RWA seminars and I listen to them, and I and everybody like raves about, it's like, and sometimes these RWA cases, it's like, the what now? What are you doing? So you're tokenizing a bond for fractional ownership. It's like, I mean, I guess that is a use case. Yeah, I guess. I mean, really the first real RWA, mainstream RWA, if you want to call it that, use case were stable coins, asset-backed stable coins. Those are RWAs, if you want to call them that. But quite often, this RWA tokenization is, I mean, I know bank instruments, tokenized bank instruments are like, yeah, it makes things faster, blah, 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 but it's just boring to me. That's a personal thing. It's not necessarily, it's not needed, right? It is needed and there is a demand for it. To me, it's just boring. What's not boring to me is if somebody says RWA, right? I imagine a real world asset, like actually like you can touch it, you can interact with it. That's to me a real world asset. And again, it's personal perception. Now, I'm not saying that this should be, the overall consensus. Just to me, it's personal perception. But I also think to others, that's also a big thing, right? So to those who are not really into, these more complex finances and financial tools, and might not have the financial education to even understand them, they get intimidated by this and just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, great, yeah, tokenized bonds, okay. But then you tell them tokenized Ceylon tea, oh, okay, that makes sense, I know Ceylon tea. So where am I going with this? Well, what I really want to get a grasp on here is, and like I said, going back to what I was started with, blockchain in general has always had a problem with user experience. The user experience of blockchain technology is really one of the main things that kept it from mainstream adoption, is because it's confusing to the average person. It's like, what do you mean I have to set up a wallet? What's a wallet? Or what what's an NFT? DeFi, what's a DeFi? What does this DeFi do? Is that a bank? Can I go there? Where's my crypto kept? Is it kept in some vault or something? Can I like go and talk to some people if I can't get it out of my wallet? I mean, it's just like, it's stuff like this, and it's fair, right? And so this kind of brings me to, okay, what kind of user experience do we need to design in order to be able to have the average producer and the average buyer have a very low barrier of entry? And have you really experienced that? And you can be honest, have you experienced that with Palmyra? And where do you think it might need improvement? I would say, even with what we do, right? So, like, first of all, do you speak to producers? Do you tell them, oh, this is on the blockchain, and they need to start talking about blockchain? So that's number one. Number two, if you don't, how is the abstraction working, right? So how is this how is the UX where you don't really have to, because what we say is, to utilize Palmyra, you don't need to know how the blockchain works. It works under the hood, but you don't need to know in reality how is that working. So just kind of touch on those things for us.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a great question, Dan, because obviously something that we need to carefully handle and manage. Because based on my experience, I have around 10 producers that are on the platform right now, mostly the Sri Lankan. But I think what we need to basically, I'm not going into that detail currently, because what we need to make sure is that they understand what the platform is and how it resolves their problems, right? I mean, that's the approach that we are taking. And how they would benefit out of it, because they have other priorities. But we need to slowly have that conversation. For example, it's now the products are all listed on the platform. We have 10 producers plus producers, mostly from Sri Lanka and plus from Nepal, Indonesia. We have one from India. We got onboarded last week, and we're planning to get a few more from Japan and Cambodia as well. So basically, for example, now these days, what we are validating their KYC, their businesses, so then they are eligible to receive payments through the system. So obviously, the option that we can give is, yes, currently we're dealing with fiat currencies, so they can receive payments, their usual bank accounts. But always there's the option to receive payments from stable coins. So that's something that we can offer to them, and they would understand, okay, yes, there's another option, like you mentioned, than accepting fiat currencies. The stable coins is an option. Why won't I do that? So gradually, I think we need to, basically touch those areas. But at the moment, what we need to make sure is that they understand how the platform works, how they benefit out of it, and to manage their profiles. And to be honest, then obviously some producers may not very tech savvy to manage their profile, but we need to basically educate them on that slowly, even to upload a good picture. I think another opportunity I see as a company that we need to offer to them is creating digital content. So some are not very good in creating digital content, but we as a company, if we help them, okay, we will handle that element. So obviously then it will build trust. So then obviously we can approach them with other options, and we can get them to work with us in future. I think that's it's a slow approach, unfortunately, but I think they are very open for to explore these opportunities. Yeah, so that's the situation at the moment.
That's very, very interesting. I think it's, the conversation we've had so far, and one of the biggest things, main things that I would like for us to accomplish is paint the picture as as much as we can, so people can understand. Because again, like, I'm sitting on this amazing living room with my piano. No, that's not mine, but anyway, we sitting here on the Western world, we think that we know, but in reality we have no idea, like zero idea. Not, like, we don't know. And it's very, very important to say this and try and give all that information to the audience, to our community, so people can actually get a little bit more in understand exactly what the hurdles are. So what I would like to ask you, if you don't mind, just describing with your experience and the things that you've seen on the ground, how is the current supply chain system? How are they working? Before Palmyra or anything else, right? Are they still using pen and paper? Are they, like, if they would like to get their tea, if they would like to get it certified, what is the process? Do you mind explaining us how is the current system, and maybe then how does it changes as soon as we bring blockchain tech and Palmyra?
Yeah, I mean, so basically the small medium producers, so they take mostly they take a manual process, producing the tea, and even exporting. And some may not have a certain license to export, so they have to go with someone else to do that for them. So obviously it will not benefit them, and someone else will take money, right? But I think, for example, let's say now I'm having conversation with some of the producers who don't have FDA approval, FDA license to ship it out to US. That is the main requirement. So I'm encouraging them to take it, and it must be costly. Some producers can't afford to take it at the moment. But obviously, that if you guide them and show them that you will get more market access, and you can earn more money if you take it, they'll invest on that, and they get the FDA approval, and then we will help them to basically sell their product in the US. So, for example, I think that's something that we can help them out with Palmyra platform. Give them a different perspective and different opportunities. Of course, they need to spend some additional money to get those certifications, but that's how they see it at the moment, because I see a positive response when I talk to them and encourage them to get even export license. Some are just sending like 5 kg or minimum less than 10 kg. You don't need certain license, but how do they basically sell more than that? So it's like a relationship, I would say, and then guide them through, and whatever we know, we can share that with them. That how to use technology, one thing, and maybe with our connections, that we can help them to get those license. Maybe we can show them the path. I think that's important. So then once we build trust, obviously we can approach more producers, and obviously they will tell other producers also that I am with Zengate, and this is how I basically managed to find more market. So obviously, why don't you approach them? So it's free marketing for us also. I think that's the plan now. And but yeah, so they have a lot of issues, and not to mention that there are other challenges in terms of the production cost being high. Sri Lanka, we've been facing a lot of challenges past several years, but things are getting stabilized. Like Dan said, slowly but surely. But still, there are a lot of other challenges that they need to overcome. Even the electricity cost, the fuel charge, the fertilizer is another issue. But they have a lot of problems. But I think if we can, help them to, basically overcome at least one of the major challenges, like finding market, then obviously they can balance it out. I think they can, manage the rest of the issues.
So let me ask you this. Again, since you're the man on the ground, and you see this and basically deal with producers and with buyers every single day, what do you think? What is it? What does the utilization of the platform look like? So, I mean, are they utilizing it quite heavily? Are they utilizing it in concert with something else that they're doing? What is their standard kind of daily, daily usage look like?
Yeah, so we've done few orders with some of these producers already, and so in fact tomorrow there's another spice order that we need to finalize with one of the suppliers, one of the producers. But still they're getting used to it. Again, there's a question mark, like I said. So will this work? If it's just another platform. So that's why we need to be careful. We need to clearly tell them, no, it's not. It's not another, typical eBay or sort of Amazon sort of a thing, right? This is completely different. So that message that we need to make sure that we, communicate clearly to those producers. It's a hand-holding, basically. That's what I'm doing every day. I'm speaking to the producers, the pioneers that we have, and then making sure that give that assurance that let's work together. I think that's very important, because sometimes I may have to chase them several times to get a response, because even to list their own products, sometimes I have to chase several times. But so once they get used to it, I think they will see the benefit of it, and they will come to us saying, I need to list more products on our platform. How do I do that? Can you facilitate that? I think that's the sort of relationship that I'm having with them right now. But I'm sure within the next couple of weeks, when we do more, when we get more buyers on the other side, and then we do more, move more volumes on the platform, I'm sure that will increase the confidence of these existing producers, and then we can reach out to more.
It's very, very helpful. Like, again, like it helps me a lot. So this is why, like, I'm very passionate about this conversation. It's because, like, I've been talking with a lot of producers from Greece, which is a European country, quote unquote westernized country. There's a reason why I have it on quote unquote. Anyway, but there's like all the conversations that I've been having with olive oil producers, for example, like there's a lot of similarities in the problems, the hurdles that they have on their day-to-day lives. It can start from oh, I'm too small and I cannot export my product outside. That could be due to certification, but it could be due to logistics. Not everybody can hire a driver and get a truck, or buy a truck and do it themselves. Like, you know what I mean? Because we're talking to MSMEs. So there's a lot of things that we've identified, such as traceability, proof of origin. Talks about there is a story there, right? The story about the person that plucked the tea, all the way to who packaged it and whatnot, and the journey of the commodity. Now, we've been talking about tea. I know you kind of mentioned spices as well. Let's just talk about different commodities. What is obviously the focus right now, and what do you think? How can you see we expand in different commodities as well? Can you just give us an idea of what things will be coming in the future? And it might not even be on the roadmap, but something that you've noticed. There's a certain commodity industry. It could be on the spicy side, it could be a palm oil, it could be whatever the case, right? That it has the potential and the need for these solutions.
Yeah, of course, opportunities are limited on this space, Theo, because mainly, yes, we are focusing on tea at the moment. But what we realize is that, some of our buyers, especially in US, now they have premium category retail shops, right? And they don't just sell tea, right? And they have their own products. So obviously they mix tea with cinnamon, tea with turmeric, the ginger, right? So then it's an opportunity for us to get other producers on board. That's how we know we are now doing the spices, right? And then they make multiple orders, not just tea, because they used to buy tea. Now they're buying tea, they buy cinnamon, they buy ginger, they buy turmeric, right? So likewise. So beyond that, one thing that we are focusing is another. Vanilla is another product that we can obviously onboard to the platform, because vanilla has its own challenges like tea and other spices. So there's a huge market for vanilla. So that's another category. Beyond that, I would say coconut-based products. So obviously, Sri Lanka is very famous for coconut-based products. Coconut tree is, you can come up with different type of products from the entirety, right? And there's a huge market out of it. That's one thing. And the Ayurvedic, the medicinal, there are a lot of, for example, moringa. Now there's a lot of demand in Western countries for moringa-based medicines. So that's another area that we can tap into. The Ayurvedic, it's a whole range of Ayurvedic products available. There are even in India, the Vietnam, Sri Lanka. So they're already exporting it, but we need to tap into those markets. So like I said, the opportunities are limitless in this commodity sector, but slowly but surely we need to go into those commodities as well.
And of course, every commodity has its own challenges in terms of the supply chain, and whatnot. But there's a lot of similarities as well, and I think this is the part that we all need to understand. And I've been saying this for quite a while, and I know Dan and Sam as well. Like, we've been talking about Palmyra and what the platform will be doing. We're tokenizing commodities, and there's a lot of times that we've been talking about tea, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not going to just be a tea commodity platform. And it's very exciting, because I obviously see everything internally that's been happening, and as soon as I saw cinnamon there, I'm like, epiphany moment. This actually is something that can it's different types of commodities, but they actually go hand in hand, because to your point, there's many specialty shops that actually do make their own products, mix and match and whatnot. And you figure out that tea and the spices are actually something that could go on the same shop, along with other commodities and whatnot. So I think it's very, very exciting to. And as soon as you brought up coconut, and all the the products that you can get from coconut, you see the past 10 years maybe, especially in the US and Canada, everyone is going crazy with coconut oil and coconut water and coconut fresh coconut. Like, it's just so now you have this amazing all these people, all these producers from the different East Asian countries, for example, because it's not just Sri Lanka, right? But you see this big opportunity now that people have, right? These MSMEs that can actually go and tap into these new markets now, because a few years later it wasn't a thing. Like, people were not using coconut oil back in the days, like 10 years ago, in this side of the world. I mean, right? I'm not saying they were not using it, in other parts of the world. So it's very, very interesting that you see that how the world evolves. At the same time, the need for better product, and at the same time for access to these global markets becomes, right? So I think it's very, very interesting that we were able to just like get a small small part of that picture, so we can all understand. And to the point that you made earlier as well, there's so many different commodities, and having this platform, we can actually, make sure that we can cater and bring solutions to all of these different producers, slowly but surely, of course, right? And it's just a matter of expanding and going into, other regions and whatnot. And I think that I have a question for Dan, because again, like the mastermind behind everything, since we have you here, I know obviously Asela is the head of operations Sri Lanka, but you're the head of operations of everything. So what is let's talk about some future plans. What are different regions around in the East Asian part of the world, and what is the plan? What are other commodities that are going to be coming? What is the thought process? Just give us a small of a spill, if you will, Dan. And obviously, Asela, would love to hear your thoughts as well, from your point of view, because again, two different points of views, obviously same company, so we do have a sync there, but again, I would love your opinions on this.
Yeah, sure. Well, for Sri Lanka, I think aside from obviously getting more and more, business and volume in and out of Sri Lanka, what I would also like to see later on in the year when we start rolling out trade DeFi is deployment in Sri Lanka. I mean, I think that there's a huge demand in Sri Lanka for reasonable trade financing. We can provide that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it at work in Sri Lanka and kind of utilizing it through our partners out there that we've that we've been working with this whole time. Now, beyond this, of course, I would like to see more commodities and more markets opened up, and really to kind of use our blueprint from Sri Lanka and what we did right, what we did wrong, to get a better streamlined understanding of really deploying in these new economies. Like, for example, what we've been talking about with Turkey. With Turkey has got it's a huge underserved market, with hazelnuts and almonds, huge. And as we mentioned before, 80% of all hazelnuts are from Turkey. And so literally, every time you have your chocolate with hazelnuts, every time you go to Switzerland, you get those really nice Swiss hazelnut chocolates. Chances are those hazelnuts are from Turkey. And if you go to Nutella, right? Nutella is your hazelnut spread. I mean, I don't have to tell you, all these things really come from there, and they're highly underserved. They're a lot of it is under digitized, a lot of it lacks access, a lot of it lacks value, which is again what we're doing in Sri Lanka is we're bringing value back to Sri Lanka, right? Through this process, for these processes that we're utilizing. We're bringing it back to Sri Lanka, and I think that is a very important thing. And value, I guess, usurped value accrual is a problem for many developing economies, like Turkey, for example. Even though the hazelnut industry is so big, a lot of the value for futures and forward commodities trading for a lot of value in general is actually in Western countries. And that is because of the way the value chain is set up is just very, it's not a very fair trade in a lot of times. And the same thing happens with many other industries, with African coffee industries. You'll go to say you go to Starbucks, right, and you get yourself some African coffee, and chances are only about maybe 5 to 7% of the actual money that you spend on your cup of coffee will go back to the producer who grew this coffee, processed it, and exported it. And so this is actually also an issue in Sri Lanka that we are looking to solve, is to, like I said, bring more value. Of course, they can't, have 100% of everything because there's other players involved, but we can definitely help with increasing that value that is accumulated there. So yeah, I guess I went on a bit of a tangent about where the value is at, but I think it's very important because it is again about bringing value back to the producer. I think it's very important for this kind of RWA tokenization is to utilize these tools to be able to have a more of a sharing economy, to have a more of an opportunity included economy, not an a level playing field, because I keep saying I don't like that. I don't like the terminology. I don't think there's ever a level playing field. It's an unachievable paradigm. You can never level a playing field ever. It's always going to have unevenness, right? So what you can do is instead of trying to level things, in vain, you can just provide as much opportunity as possible for people to kind of level their own playing field if they want to, and succeed better. And that's again that is the whole idea behind what we're doing with this project, with the platform. And I think that Asela, I think you're actually starting to see that quite a bit, right? You're starting to see how what the reactions are from the producers, regardless if they know Web3 or not. It's not even a thing, right? Do they care, or what do they know or care about Web3? But it's just, how is the platform making business easier for them, and how for the buyer it's bringing in a more quality product. So I would say, would you say that is a fair assessment, that you are starting to see that more and more right now with the people that you deal with? I mean, or would you say that there's still, some resistance, or I mean, what would be your kind of gauging on that?
No, I mean, they're fully on board, I think, on that point, Dan, because obviously they see the opportunity, they see the potential. So I think it'll, if we do more sales, with them, it'll boost their confidence, and they will not go elsewhere, obviously. So I think I'm seeing that, because we have only limited producers at the moment. But I think it's from business operations point of view, what is important is to get the feedback, clearly monitor how it's being done from both sides, from the producer side as well as the buyer side, and also see what buyers' requirements are. We need to listen to buyers' requirements as well, right? And their experience in terms of, for example, the logistics. Now, there's a lot to learn on that. There's a lot of things that we need to discuss with and improve on that element. I think to study the whole operation is quite important, at the moment, and then basically keep improving on that. And when we move to other markets, like you mentioned, other countries, other jurisdictions, so to use this the phase to learn, get feedback, and work on both sides. I think that's something that I'm focusing on at the moment.
Yeah, that's very good to hear. Again, it's very interesting to kind of show the perspective of a RWA tokenized platform working in a in an industry that really doesn't really care about the tech side of it, right? It doesn't. It's like RWA tokenization, whatever. We just know what it does for us, right? And that's very interesting. So Theo, do you have any last last points or questions you'd like to ask Asela before we call it a wrap for this episode?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank Asela for staying up late, and you, Dan. But you are, that's your regular thing to do. So first of all, I want
to I'm just so, like, I love it so much. I just love not sleeping. It's the thing that I enjoy the most.
I'm pretty sure you are. Yes. So Asela, I just want to thank you for being with us. I do have a last question for you, which I think it's a good closing question, if you will, and that is what it is there to expect in the coming months. I know Sam is coming down there to visit, so
and he said he only wants to eat the hottest Sri Lankan curries that you can find him. So please make sure that all the curry that you get him is extra hot like extra hot. I'm not talking about Sri Lankan level. I'm talking about Indian tourist level. And if anybody's ever been to Sri Lanka, they will know that there's
Absolutely.
there's the Sri Lankan level, which is like it's fire, but it's a controlled burn. And then you have the South Indian tourist level, which is just like if you're not born with it, you will suffer from it.
I will make sure that I do that.
Thank you.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Sela,
So,
if you don't mind, just
Yeah.
give us the last overview of
Yeah. So
any future
sure,
things that are coming.
sure. Sure. So we already have producers on board from countries like India, Nepal, Indonesia, several other Asian countries. So like I mentioned, I think it's important to continue with them. Make sure that business is smooth and learn from mistakes. Maybe get feedback, and also to see what other areas that we can tap into. And also, yeah, Sam is coming down. I think we have there's an exhibition happening in Sri Lanka, global scale one. So we had to leverage that, and basically go out and showcase ourselves, what we can do and what we can offer to the whole supply chain. Yeah, and that's about it. And just build relationships. It's very important. Building trust. I think it's not easy. Working with people, different industries. That's the most challenging thing I would say than working with systems. But yeah, so I think take it as a challenge and keep improving my relationship with all the stakeholders. Yeah, I think that's the focus area for now. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Amazing.
Excellent. Well, Asela, thank you so much for doing this today. Yeah, make sure to follow Asela on Twitter. Make sure to, of course, say hi to Asela if you see him on the street. Of course, if you just happen to be in Sri Lanka. Yeah, and yeah, it was just great to really kind of showcase what you do, because we quite often speak about our Sri Lankan operation, but it is very nice to kind of show, yes, this is Asela. He works for Zengate SL. This is what Zengate SL does, and he doesn't just sit around there and wait for Sam to come down so he can give him really, really hot curry. So thanks a lot
Yeah,
for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure too. Thanks for having me, both Dan, Theo. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. We're going to be back next Tuesday. We're back to our weekly schedule. So every Tuesday, we're going to be here, the mainstream. As of next week, from my understanding, we're actually going to have 5 to 10 shot glasses, me and Dan, so we can make sure that we actually do hit the shots every time that we say the word mainstream. So tune in for that. It's going to be a very fun show, the next one.
It will be. It will be. Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait to get intoxicated on live podcast.
On a live podcast.
Anywho, all right. Well, I think it's a good place to call it a wrap for today. And yeah, everybody, thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. We are, as Theo said, we'll be back here next Tuesday, same time, same channel. Maybe a little bit drunker, maybe not. Who knows? All right, and until then, this is Dan coming to you barely alive from Japan, signing off.
See you guys.